Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Mailo, one of the co-hosts of the Physician Empowerment Podcast. At Physician Empowerment, we're dedicated to improving the lives of Canadian physicians personally, professionally, and financially. If you're loving what you're listening to, let us know. We always want to hear your feedback. Connect with us. If you want to go further, we've got outstanding programming both in person and online. So look us up. But regardless, we hope you really enjoy this episode. Hi, I'm Kevin Mailo with Physician Empowerment, and I've got here today with me my fellow presenter and faculty person, Wing Lim. As you know, Wing and I lead most of the instructional content with Physician Empowerment, most of the masterclasses, and of course, our conference that we just finished wrapping up last month in Toronto. It was our national gathering, a lot of fun. We sold out, and there were a lot of surprises that came out of the conference this year. And I thought it was very, very interesting. We'll talk about some of those surprises because there was a lot of very valuable learning, and not just in terms of like knowledge and information and facts, but a lot of wisdom. And I think a big part of that came through the contributions, Wing. And I don't know what your thoughts are. I'll let you talk in just a second here. But I think one of the big contributions that came out of the conference and why it was so successful was the sharing that occurred, not from you and I and other presenters, but also from the panelists and from our guest speakers, some of whom are Masterclass students themselves. They're part of the Lifetime Masterclass. They've been with us for a while, and now they're feeling like they want to share their story and share their learning. And that's what's so powerful. I mean, this is where I feel very spoiled because I used to think I was teaching. Now I'm just learning, frankly.
Oh, there's so much to learn from everyone. I like the fact that at the end of the second day, there was a coaching session, and then the speakers asked people to voice out what they feel about this conference, what it meant to them. And here's some of the words they feel: that they're not alone. You're not alone. Belonging, improving EQ, not IQ, right? And the shared experiences, friendship, shared humanity, alignment, right? And so I thought these things, you don't usually go to a CME and expect that kind of outcome. In fact, one of our longtime Masterclass attendee, she said that, Wing and Kevin, you're the first ones after I came to your initial CME, I remembered your name, the presenters. And I agree. I've been to CME events for like 30 years. And usually if you ask me, the last one you went to, do you remember who presented? Any other co-attendees? I'll tell you, no, I remember where I went. So, and maybe the topic. Right. So I think it's really valuable to have people share the narratives. And the same person that shared, she said that, well, when we're talking about physician burnout, right, which is so prevalent.
Oh, yeah, that came out in a big way this year. Yeah, I was shocked.
Other than the speakers and the panelists, one person picked up her hand and said, hey, I'm probably the most senior, 40 years of practice. And let me tell you that I burned out so many times. A few times already, and how I pivoted and how I moved on, right? And I thought that was just so valuable, the feedback from the crowd, the sharing, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we struggle with in medicine within the profession, right? Is, we have to kind of put this face on for our patients, for our colleagues, and even for ourselves, rather than admitting what we're struggling with, what we worry about, where we're at. And so that's what I thought was so powerful. And I know, like for myself, years ago, I couldn't have gone up to the conference and shared the way I shared. And that's some growth that came out of it for me. But the truth is, it was inspiring to hear from the conference participants and from the panelists like Yatin Chadha, Dmitry Ranev, who were there talking about what they've experienced over the course of their career and creating that permission for us to be very honest and open with each other in a group setting like that.
And then the phenomenon that we talk about, of course, the second day of the conference, we talk about leadership. And I actually told the crowd that the way that we designed the second day, first day is more brainy. Second day, we want to do an 18-inch drop to the heart. And we did, right? And a lot of hardy stuff that came out. And so people are surprised, right? I think that they're surprised that there's so much transparency. The other highlight is we had a non-medical spousal panel. And that one was unexpectedly people just echoed across. We want to make sure that, hey, this would be a inclusive event, right? Because for the first 25, 28 years of my CMEs, we go to a destination and I have to shove away my spouse and kids so that I'm going to be the MD, right? And to make it, I said, I don't like that. If and when it's my time to organize CME, you want to make sure that it is really, really spousal inclusive. And you know what? The spouse is just so excited, feel so validated, and there's a lot of fun discussions afterwards.
We had our first non-MD spouse panel.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was incredible. So we had this, I mean, you and Kitty were there sharing your journey from, solo practitioner where Kitty's running the front and the back of your practice.
Everything.
all the way to, the successful heights you've reached in real estate and practice building. But then our other couple that was there, remarkable to hear how the husband, effectively kind of stepped back in his career to create space for his wife to succeed in family practice, only to go on and build, a very large and growing real estate portfolio. And hearing that conversation back and forth between the couples on balancing career, balancing financial priorities, setting boundaries, which I think was so important, right? Because it's very easy for work as physicians to bleed into our home lives. Oh, I'm on call. Oh, I've got charting. Oh, I've got billing. Oh, something unexpected came up and I'm going to be late and I'm going to be able to pick up the kids, putting it on the non-physician spouse. And so how do you do that and not just function in your day-to-day lives, but how do you thrive, stay happy, stay in love? And that's what I thought was so beautiful about that part of the conference, right? Is the honesty and openness needed between, couples, because the non-physician spouse should never feel like second fiddle.
Exactly. Yeah.
His or her career ambitions, what's going on at home, those things need to be honored and recognized, right? It can't just be like, oh, well, I went into work and saved lives today. I don't think that that's fair ever.
You cannot say spouse A, I built my career at the expense of spouse B, right? So I think they have to be as a unit to thrive. And for this journey to financial freedom, they need to be as a unit together at the same pace. And then actually two physicians afterwards came and they say, how do we bring our spouses here next time? So I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's something we're really, I'm certainly really proud of, because we even get non-MD spouses coming alone because the physician's working and that's life,
exactly. That happened. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, wealth creation is a team sport, but so is happiness in a marriage or a long-term relationship. And I think the other key point is like thriving not only as a couple and not only, having the household prosper financially, but also thriving as individuals. It's always important we don't lose our individuality in a relationship. And so, seeing some of the couples at our conference who, are so dynamic, not only together, but as individuals was so powerful, right? And it's such an optimistic message of hope, because that's, in my opinion, when you think about financial security, that's a key part of it. It's like the space to thrive individually, because it's not a daily struggle anymore when it comes to money.
Right. And to come to a platform where everybody from different specialties, family medicine, generalist specialists, surgical specialists, medical specialists, even dentists, right? To come and just, everybody just gel in as a group, right? Everybody just talk and it's so friendly, no ranking, no fangs, no teeth.
It's no who's credentialed, who's an academic physician or community or what specialty or practice background. I thought that was phenomenal.
And this echoed a concept that I went to a global leadership summit. There's like 45 million people viewing this telecast every year. And one leader one day came out and said leading by vulnerability. And so I thought, wow, this is weird, because most leaders are strong leaders, right? And they talk about leading with civility and leading with vulnerability. That if you could be able to be vulnerable, you drop your shield, right? And people drop their shield, and then they know that they can follow a guy who's so honest. And kudos to you, Kevin, right? During your sharing, you're very vulnerable about some difficult patches.
Oh, yeah, like crying. Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody felt so good. And our speakers who just came back from another leadership conference, and they said, your group is so different. but you guys are so vulnerable to each other. It's so different. And one speaker said that, yeah, I'm here for a few minutes and everybody's ready to be your friend. And I said, thank you. But you know what? The people you talk to are newbies. They just arrived the day prior. So that means it's a safe haven for people to park, right? And shed all those shields and facades, right? And it's a safe place for people to just talk about really from their heart what is truly important in their lives, in their journeys, other than what they are, but actually who they are.
That's key. It's who am I at my core. And there was a lot of exploration on that. Like we had coach speakers that led a personal coaching session for us. And it was incredible because it was Angie and Michelle who were leading it, really kind of teasing that out, right? And helping us to navigate that balance between, the inner self and the roles we have, the hats we wear as a practice builder, as a clinician, as, a spouse or a parent or whatever. And I thought that was very, very powerful. The other big one that came up, which I was surprised about, but I think this speaks to what's going on in the profession, is burnout. Like people just like panelists, attendees, people just kind of putting up their hand and saying, yeah, I've really struggled with this, right? Or I've struggled with it in the past, or I'm going through it now. I was really, really shocked by how much that came out this year. But I think it's, the ongoing pressures that we're facing within the profession.
Right. And pop out of nowhere was AI.
Yeah, I would say that was the big surprise. Maybe for somebody like me that can barely work my email.
Kevin, I'm a lot older than you.
We've heard a lot, like, honestly, we keep hearing about innovations in healthcare technology, right, as ways to improve. And I think, frankly, a lot of us are skeptical because it just is another confusing mess, right? I mean, we saw that with electronic medical records when people moved from paper charting. I think a lot of people were like, great, now I'm just swimming in notifications. I have a never-ending inbox. That problem has still not been solved, right? I mean, that's still ongoing.
But using AI to help you chart, right? I think, again, it's just one above my head. But ready to learn, right?
Yeah, we've got one of our conference attendees that hopefully will come on the show and talk about the details of like, what's it like working with an AI during a clinical encounter. But it was wild. But to get back to the burnout issue, people were talking about like, well, now I feel like I'm talking to my patient again. I'm actually having an interaction rather than focusing on my screen and trying to type or think of the next question, right? And making sure I was jotting it down. That was the one that was really impressive because people seem to be happier in the clinical encounter. And then on top of it, hearing like, oh, one person said, I've reduced my charting by 2 hours a day.
That is huge.
That is huge. That's actually an improvement.
That's buying your life back. 2 hours, right?
So that was a bright spot and a surprise for me coming out of the conference was like, oh, technology actually made things better and not more cumbersome, right? Because we're inundated with emails. We're inundated with constant notifications, in baskets that never seem to disappear. So to be into this space of saving time and being happier and having patients who are happier as well, I thought was phenomenal.
Yeah, so interesting. We've been talking about this conference, and we did not even mention the knowledge side, right? This is all the other side. Like we have great speakers. We have tax lawyer updating us on the 2024 tax updates, right? And then we have CPA, we have investment specialists, we have planners. Yes, meaty, brainy stuff. We're there. These are the add-ons. We pride ourselves in creating a platform for people to feel like they're fellow sojourners, right? We're here, a vision of existence, of very existence and belief in physician empowerment is to empower you, right, as fellow sojourners for your own journey to financial freedom and wellness.
Yeah, I mean, that was the challenge for me. And I think I've talked about this before, but like if I'm not happy now at this stage of my life, when is it going to happen? And then that requires taking active steps to do better personally, professionally, financially, because it's not just going to fall out of the sky. There isn't a someday. And Yatin Chadha actually talked about that as well. I think he was even on the podcast talking about this idea of arrival fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
That, somehow in the future, when the right conditions are met, then I will be happy. Then I will this, then I will that. But that's not true. Happiness has to come now.
And then what's the opportunity cost and the collateral damage when you postpone to X number of years later, right? What's left in your life?
Yeah, in your relationships, in your health, all of those sorts of things. I completely agree.
Awesome. So moving forward, I think we're onto something, right? We continue to grow as a family.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. And then we definitely want to pivot over to more relaxed gathering a couple times a year, destination based. It's a nice family holiday, bring everyone. And we have a chance to hobnob with each other, to have fun food fellowship, talk about finance and other stuff. So you want to highlight some of the upcoming events, Kevin?
Yeah. So we are all booked for Canmore. So that one registration will be open. I think essentially now we can share the links to that. And so what that is that's Canmore, Alberta. So for anybody that doesn't know where that is, that's just west of Calgary at the gates of Banff National Park. And Banff National Park is an international destination for tourists seeking some of the most beautiful mountain views in the world. And it's just an incredible space. We got a beautiful hotel. And what we're going to be doing is bringing a small group of us together to do some deep dives in real estate, specifically high level real estate investing. This is not just, we're not talking about buying your own doors. We're talking about syndication, private equity. We're talking about how to look at deals from an institutional investor's perspective. We're talking about corporate structuring and advanced tax planning. And of course, we're bringing in our very, very smart, highly qualified Masterclass faculty to teach that. So that is going to be an outstanding little 3-day weekend. And then what I'd like to do, weather permitting, is we're going to go for a hike. Obviously, that's optional. I don't believe in mandatory wellness activities. There will be no mandatory wellness modules, but we will be doing some great group activity. We'll be sharing a lot of meals together, and it's designed for the non-physician spouse as well. So come as a couple if you're with somebody, and let's have a great weekend where we learn some very, very valuable aspects to real estate investing and tax planning. So again, that one, though, is expected to sell out very quickly because we're built around a smaller sized model. It really facilitates that vulnerability, putting up your hand and getting to ask your questions. And of course, getting to ask your questions of professionals who are experts in their own field and bill out at hundreds of dollars per hour. And that's what I think where a key part of the value is. So again, that's going to be October 25th to 28th. And we have a travel agency that we work with. They'll handle all of the booking for you. Just go to the website and check there. Then the other big one that we're still in the process of finalizing, but that'll be done shortly, so you can save the date, is late February. We are headed to beautiful Cancun. That was something we had done back in 2021. During COVID, it was that brief window when things seemed to settle down and you could travel with your COVID pass and all your swabs and everything else. Thankfully, there's none of that. Now you can just hop a flight from Toronto, Calgary, anywhere in Canada. Cancun's very easy to get to. And again, we're working with a travel agency. It's going to be a 5-star resort. And this is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be much more relaxed. It's going to be a lot of balance between, we're going to call it health and wealth. So focus on wellness and finance. Again, with some of our Masterclass faculty expected to attend as well. It'll be a working holiday for them, so they'll be able to ask those questions. Unfortunately, we never give them a break, but they're happy. They love it. And so that'll be late February. And again, small group of us expected to sell out pretty quickly. And those details will be up and published shortly. So I think we've got a great year coming up. It was a lot of fun being in Toronto last month. I'm really looking forward to a lot of these retreats where we get to go away, get out of the hecticness of our daily lives and practices, come together not only as a group, but hopefully, if you're with somebody as a couple, or Cancun, for instance, is going to be very child friendly, so bring the kids, and not too heavy. I'm a little bit done with slideshows.
Spoon via USB upload.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it is not going to be 8 hours in a conference room. Absolutely not. And there will be great wellness and social activities that are not mandatory because, again, that's a policy with us. There are no mandatory wellness modules or anything else like that.
Right. Now, talking about modules and having a great year, of course, we have a monthly webinar, open webinars, and monthly and closed master classes. And so we're launching a new academic year in June, right? So we're going to talk about what financial freedom is, and we're going to just talk about it. And this was a recurrent theme over the weekend, right? In Toronto, we're going to more systematically and methodically digest what financial freedom means, and we'll navigate on key points for newcomers. And of course, we'll have a heavy twist into real estate because that's what we do, right? So
yeah, that's what we do really well. And so again, that's going to be the 2024 to 2025 programming in the masterclass. So if you're interested, do let us know, because we allow people to drop in from time to time to see a masterclass, get a sense of what it's like, and if it might work for you, because it is that lifetime membership where once you enroll, you get to join us online for all these events at no cost. So we love it. And again, to those of you that are listening, that were there at the conference, thank you again so much for your participation, for your kind words, your support, the laughter and the stories. I thought that was incredible. I think it was our funnest weekend yet.
No doubt, hands down.
Yeah. Thank you again. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Physician Empowerment Podcast. If you're ready to take those next steps in transforming your practice, finances, or personal well-being, then come and join us at physempowerment.ca, PHYS empowerment.ca, to learn more about how we can help. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you would share our podcast with a colleague or friend, and head over to Apple Podcasts to give us a 5-star rating and review. If you've got feedback, questions, or suggestions for future episode topics, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to join us and be interviewed and share some of your story, we'd absolutely love that as well. Please send me an email at kmilo@physempowerment.ca. Thank you again for listening. Bye.